Good morning, it's Friday. Thank God it's Friday. So, leadership. Where does leadership come from? Leadership comes out of a desire to serve. There's a great book called The Servant Leader. I forget who wrote it, but grab it sometime and take a look at it. When we're setting our goals, coffee's done. When we're setting our goals, when we're setting out in terms of, how we want to approach the world, the things that we want to do, when you do your mission statement, the more that you set that mission statement out in order to serve, the bigger the net that you're going to cast, and the bigger the influence you have the capacity to have. So what do I mean by all that? Well, true leaders come out of a desire really to serve others. If your desire is really to, I'm going to intimidate people and push people into getting them to do what I want them to do, well, you can do that to a point. But then there are limits, and right now employers are finding out that there's significant limits because the power has been in the hand of the employer for a long time in this country, and it's shifted after a pandemic, which, by the way, historically, that's what's happened after a worldwide pandemic, is the power shifts away from the owners to the people that work for the owners. That's what got us out of the dark ages was the plague. So the power is now shifted to the employees. And so if your way of motivating employees is simply by intimidation, well, they're just going to walk away right now and they're going to go work for somebody else. So you can tell the business owners that treated their employees like crap and didn't pay them because their businesses are closed because nobody will work for them right now. But if your desire is really to serve the people that you're working for, now you're casting a whole wider net. And now you're coming into true leadership. So think about that in terms of your goals. If your goals, as we're anchoring ourselves with our mission statement and our values, if it's, well, I want to make this much money and I want to do this and I want to do this, great. Most people will throw something in there about influencing in a positive way, a spouse or a child. And so then that's going to cast your net a little bit wider. But if your mission statement is to impact the world, think about how that's going to change your approach to the things that you want to do. I mean, Steve Jobs said, I want to make a dent in the universe, not in the world, in the universe. That was how he approached things. Elon Musk throws the widest net possible in terms of the impact that he wants to have. And if you start out your day thinking, and that doesn't necessarily mean that this is what you want to do, but if you start out your day thinking, I'm going to change the world in some fashion, well, your overall approach to how you're going to do things is going to be vastly different than if your net is, I'm going to impact 2 people. And that isn't to say that you should necessarily be throwing your net that big. But think about, the actions that you're going to take, if it's all designed to influence yourself only. I want to have this type of body. I want to have this much money. I want to me. I want to have all of these things. Well, then you have no intent of really trying to help other people. And so therefore, you're not really trying to lead them by not trying to serve them. So when you try to motivate people, it's going to be, attempted to be done by negative influence. Well, that's not going to be very effective. If instead your goal is to serve other people in a large way, now as you're trying to serve them, your actions are going to be significantly different as you take approaches to try to really improve their life. Now you're going to fall into a leadership role, and now you're going to have a wider net in terms of the overall influence that you're going to be able to have. Now, again, this doesn't necessarily say that this is what you have to do. The point of this conversation is simply to say, if you want to really make a difference in people's lives, it's got to come from a place of service. Otherwise, your effectiveness isn't going to be there. And that's what leadership is. That's really what the word hero comes from. The word hero comes from a similar Latin root, and it can be interpreted as leader. It could also be interpreted as slave. It can be interpreted as bound to that service role. That's what the hero is. You have no choice but to operate in that capacity. You know, one of the things that comic books did at times is showed that the hero in the comic book, the superhero, didn't necessarily want their gig for a period of time, but had to perform their gig. They were required to because of these talents that they had, and they were almost a slave in that they had to do things that they didn't want to do. Well, that's an honor to the actual Latin